Well, today is August 28th, 2014, and we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Graystone Society here in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. We're very much a different organization than 30 years ago. For instance, we have three main historic houses, the Graystone Mansion, Terracina, and the Rebecca Lukens house, known as Brandywine Mansion, and multiple outbuildings, including a firehouse, a tenant house. We also help manage the tours in the Lukens Executive Office building. We have a historic district that plays a large part in the attraction of the city of Coatesville and the revitalization of this town. To do that, we have increased our collections to include the Grutska Art Collection, the World Trade Center trees, and numerous other photographs, objects, research library. We couldn't do this without our growing staff, where it started with a volunteer base, and we have grown to 6 staff members, including some part-time and some full-time members. We, of course, wouldn't be here today without our founding members, DiOrio, Mary Sullivan, William Fischer, and Rosie Long. We are very grateful for what they started 30 years ago and are happy to continue the tradition of historic preservation and education here in the city of Coatesville. Let us hear from DiOrio about the beginnings of the Graystone Society.
Well, good afternoon. This is a historic day. 30 years ago, in 1984, this organization got its formal legal start when 4 people who were the incorporators signed the documents for the state. But the society actually got started before that. We were an aftermath, you might say, or a result from the county's celebration in 1982 of its tricentennial. William Penn came to America in 1682, following the achievement of the charter from the king in 1681, and he established 3 counties, Chester, Philadelphia, and Bucks. So Chester County was having a big event that year with a lot of commemorations in various communities, and Coatesville did some things. So several of us got together and put together exhibits here and in Westchester. Following that event, there was a great deal of expression from the public as to why doesn't Coatesville have some sort of a little museum of its local history. So we kept talking about it and thinking about it, and finally we decided, yes, we'll do it. Coatesville's director at the time was enthusiastic, and the city agreed to give us 1 room in Graystone Mansion, which was then, of course, Coatesville's City Hall. So we started to work on the idea of putting together a small nonprofit, and we called ourselves the Graystone Museum Society of Coatesville. Now, we took the name Graystone from the house. The mansion that was the City Hall for so many years had been the private home of Mr. Abram Francis Houston, who called the house Graystone when he had it built in 1889. So we picked up the name from that and called ourselves a museum society. We had no thoughts going beyond establishing a museum. So then it was recognized that we had to have a legal status, and we accordingly then went on to filing for incorporation. And as the papers in front of me indicate, it was in August the 31st that the state approved it. It was the 28th of August that the 4 of us, Mr. William Fischer, Miss Rosie Long, Mrs. Mary Sullivan, and myself, signed the papers which were submitted to the State Department, and they were approved on the 31st. So yes, it's 30 years ago today that we began the formal the formal foundation of the society. So here we are 30 years later, and we've progressed quite a bit. We not only own the Graystone Mansion, but we were involved with so many other things. Incidentally, after a couple of years, we changed as we got into other buildings and other properties, we thought Graystone Museum Society was too long. So we simply shortened it to the Graystone Society Incorporated. So that's briefly the history and what we're celebrating today. And I love these very gracious references to my age, which are coming along, or as Jim said, remains of the day. But yes, I do feel we did something that has grown. And with all the help from the Houston family and so many people who have been involved, we are now, I think, an institution in Coatesville.